I will present EUMED metering, another example of application level ontology. The origin of EUMED metering is from the SIM, IEC SIM, and we have found two profiles, either from the metering packages from the SIM or from the energy market space. So it's the reason why we have added a complement to EUMED, which stands for European My Energy Data. If you have chosen to design your time series using the metering approach, we have developed a profile called EUMED metering. So for short, we will use EME for this profile. And if you have chosen to design your time series using the market conventions, then you will prefer use EUMED market, and for short we will call that profile EMA, EUMED market. So as you can see, even in the SIM, you have different possibilities to use the same route model. And it was this kind of flexibility what we wanted to keep using these two profiles, not to impose a single way to exchange data. It's a long story, so I will try to make it short. In fact, in IEC, there is a profiling process that enables us to take the SIM classes and to derive some specific context classes that we will use in the, for instance, EUMED metering. This process is supported by two different tools, Enterprise Architect for the UML part and Mozzarella for the profiling process. Mozzarella is add-in to Enterprise Architect. When you have got the EME as a UML model, you can generate XML files that will conform to the XSV that is generated automatically using Mozzarella and Enterprise Architect. So you have already model engineering for this, let's say, old world modeling approach. And when we try to see how we could introduce EME in Omega X ecosystem, we found two steps to introduce EME in the Omega X ecosystem. The first step is translation, because the EME is expressed in UML, and as you know, the semantic interoperability in the CSDM are more based on role or ontology or knowledge graph approach. So the first step was to translate the EME in all, and then, as Lina said, we had to align with EDS module. So we have EDS to EME alignment module to develop as well. So I will briefly present all these steps in my presentation. So I will have no time to go too much into the detail about the EME model, but let's say that it was the UML form, original form of the UML model. And what we are proposing to Omega X is the EME, the all forms, sorry, of EUMED metering, and you can see that it's very similar. It's just a translation of classes, and we took the ontology, let's say, paradigm to express the same model. So just some example of how we can translate from UML to all form this kind of model. the first mapping is mapping rule is to align, to translate the UML class or data type in all classes. Perhaps you know that UML differentiate between a class and a data type when for all it's the same concept. So, for instance, the time series in EUMED is called a method reading set, and in the whole form it's exactly the same. But for instance, if you are describing a customer and you want to give a specific kind, for instance, it's residential. In the case of UML, it's a data type, but it has to be mapped to an old class as well. Sometimes UML data type can be also mapped on top-level ontology. For instance, if you are using time interval, we can directly map on the time ontology, as Lina shown. So it's quite easy. It's just a game of translation. In UML, you have also the notion of attribute that can be mapped on object or data properties. Here, it's contrary from the previous UML has only one concept attribute that can be mapped on two concept object or data properties. It's just a problem of is the data type of the attribute a simple one, or a complex one. For instance, it's the value is a string, it can be mapped on the data property value string as shown in the slide. In case, for instance, the kind of a customer is a complex kind, complex type, data type, it has to be mapped on object properties linking a customer and a customer kind. Here also, it's only syntactic transformation. It's not very difficult semantically to understand. The last part is the link between the classes called in UML association, and in this case, here also we have two things to generate, because an association can be in UML can be navigated in two directions. So in all, you have a directed arcs. So we have to develop two object properties to represent an association. One from the source to the target, and the other one from the target to the source. So in conclusion, we can easily understand that this kind of transformation or translation can be automated, but for the time we did not find, let's say, industrial level tools to do the job. So for the moment, it was done manually, but we'll continue to see and to have a survey on translation tools as well. If you remember, we have a second step to do is alignment with the existing modules in Omega X CSDM. So here I have the EUMED in all form. Sorry, it's energy dataset as Lina has shown, and I have human metering module to align. So what kind of rules we have to define? Usually it's subsumption rules. For instance, we can see that technical context expressed in EDS is a kind of subclass of reading type used in EUMED metering. Why? Because as Valentina explained, most of the attributes or data properties of EUMED are more specific. They are enumerated value because due to a taxonomy that has been defined in the context of a SIM. when EDS is more generic and only express the parameters of the technical context as string. So it was this kind of rules that we have to explain to make the mapping between the EDS and the EME. Another example is the here also it's sorry, the first example I was a little too rapid. The first example is that if you have time to look at the list of the technical parameters, there is one missing in EME, which is the EDS value data type that has been added to express the data type used for the value in the time series. And it is not supported by EME, so it's the reason why it's a subclass. The other argument was there, and as I said earlier, for instance, you have a unit symbol, which is an enumerate in EME when it is a string in EDS. So you will restrict the choice of values in EME because it has been standardized by a SIM community. And and sometimes there is no rules, as this means that there is no equivalent in EME. For instance, as Lina said, you have a possibility in EDS to embed several times a series and a sub-series and sub-sub-series. When in EME it's not possible. We have only one level of embedding. We can embed in a meta reading an interval block, but it's done after we have to give the values, interval readings. So here also the EDS is more generic to enable eventually other profiles to be defined from this generic route. Also in EDS, you have two solutions to give a position of a point in a series. Either you give the ranking, so you say that it's the second point of a series, or you give a timestamp, so when the value was calculated. In case of metering, they have chosen to timestamp all the values, so they did not use in ranking. So here also EDS is more generic because it enables the two solutions, either ranking or timestamping for the values. So here also it's a restriction. If you use, for instance, EMA, which is the market profile from SIM, you will use ranking instead of timestamping. It was the reason why we have two different models in SIM, one of the reasons. So as a wrap-up and vision of next steps, we are willing to push EME as an application ontology for the next pilots. But if you think it's interesting to have more than one profile, we can also push EMA, which is along the same ideas, but using the market approach from the SIM. In this case, we have two solutions, two different application ontologies to exchange time series. It will be nice because we can show that it's even if you are not using the same model, you can interpret semantically around inside the data space. We will start to help pilot to use EME because perhaps it's not that simple. So we are ready and happy to help for that. And also we have started the promotion of EME in other sister projects, and Eric will explain where we are and where we want to go. I think in conclusion, For the tools, as I said, we have not found yet very good tools. And if you know any tools, we are happy to get news from you. In the case of translation between UML and all. And also the second step, perhaps we could find some tools, not perhaps to generate the rules, but to execute, to let's say operationalize the process between the two ontologies. This is what I see as next step for Omega X, and if we look next step for standardization point of view, we could perhaps help the process of expressing the theme in UML from UML to all. It already exists, but it's a monolithic approach, and it's not very tractable from the ontological point of view. And what we have done to align a theme, EDS and EME, we could also do the same between theme and EME, because it's a specialization as well. So we could define the rules between theme and EME and push it to standardize the rules, to be sure that everyone are using the same rules, and the same for EMA.
Thank you, Bruno, for the presentation. I see, Eric, you have a hand raised.
Yes, so thank you very much, Bruno. I want to emphasize the fact that EUMED, European My Energy Data, is supporting the implementing act on metering and customer data access. So implementing act, this means that the member state of Europe have to support the requirements which are in the implementing act. And so the profiles defined and exposed by Bruno are supporting the semantic that is needed to expose customer data. So to me, it's really important also to share this work, as you mentioned, Bruno, with sister projects. We already started to share this with EDI. And also, last point is that this week there was a Smart Grid Forum conference, and there was a presentation of EUMED metering profile by some DSO, by EDIS, the French DSO. So it's really important to leverage this work, and we have a lot of work in front of us to align these application ontologies, EUMED, with the CSDM, the EDS ontology defined by the project Omega X. Thank you.
Is there any other question or comment?
Just a quick remark concerning tools. We will have also to engage discussions with ICTC 57, which has a specific session each week on theme and semantics, where they are looking at top-level ontologies that has been exposed also before by Lina, and also the fact that we need to have tools. And for instance, Bruno mentioned Mozarus, which is an EDF add-in to Enterprise Architect, but other experts are using other tools like SimTool, which is an Eclipse add-in. So we need to engage these discussions with our colleagues of IC. Thanks.
Okay, if there is no other comment or question, I think we can switch to the last presentation, which is from Fatma Zora. We are right on time.